technology, removing 99.9% of the impurities out of your water. Very passionate about this. And the fact that when you take vitamins, medicine, antibiotics, to antidepressants, to hormone blockers like birth control, that doesn't always get absorbed in its entirety in your system. So where does that go? Flush down the toilet through water treatment centers that don't block every single aspect of that in the water. So then you drink the tap water, and it sounds rather gross, but that could then get into your bloodstream. So go to covepure.com/RSBN right now for clear water technology, the best in the business. You need a reverse osmosis system. You might as well go with the number one on the market. Drink pure, live pure. Get $200 off right now at covepure.com/RSBN. It's 3:30. It's the bottom of the hour. We're anticipating President Trump to land as he's over the English Channel now and over the Republic of Ireland en route to the United Kingdom. Let's take a quick commercial break for sponsors. Stick with us. The President of the United States, the First Lady of the United States, expected to land in merry old England in roughly 20 minutes from now. Stick with us here. Don't change that channel. It's Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live Show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door. Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network as we're tracking the exact flight pattern of President Donald Trump aboard Air Force One as he enters English airspace. A second state meeting that will be rather splendid because this is very unlikely to happen. Usually you're fortunate enough to get one state meeting with the United Kingdom and their royalty, but President Trump having a second one because of the amount of respect between His Majesty King Charles III and President Donald Trump. And perhaps they don't necessarily agree on every which way, especially when it comes to so-called green energy, which has really truly turned out to be a green new scam. One of my favorite speeches I've ever heard from President Trump was in 2019 in West Palm Beach, Florida, at a Turning Point USA event right before Christmas, the Student Action Summit, which is now held in the summertime and usually in Tampa, Florida. But we were down there and President Trump went on a 30-minute side note of his speech to feature why those things cannot be recycled, they're bird killers, and the fact that they're an absolute eyesore on the American people and on American farmland. And you have to ask that question with the Chinese Communist Party. They don't put up those windmills around their country. They simply construct them and sell them to the highest bidder, and that tends to be our American farmers because the regulations at one point were so high, especially with Canadian tariffs against our dairy farmers and our ranchers, and especially those up in Dairyland itself of Wisconsin and just next door in Minnesota as well. President Trump changing that economic landscape, the focus on getting good, clean, healthy beef, poultry, and dairy as well. For the longest time, the United Kingdom, Europe as a whole, would not purchase exports from the United States in regards to farming due to pesticides, due to hormone blockers, or those injections that can go into Angus beef and, again, our chicken, to other food and animal products. That's all changed with the new $600 billion deal between the European Union and the United States at that last meeting at Trump International at Turnberry, Scotland. A $720 billion new energy deal, in fact, with more to be discussed in regards to Russia and the Russian Federation influence of oil over Europe. And I would say that's the biggest component, other than the scandal of the auto pen itself and who signed those pardons and how they cannot hold up in court if that then the sitting president of the United States was not aware of them. But the larger scandal, the canceling of the Keystone Pipeline, perhaps from Alaska and Anwar all the way down through western British Columbia to Alberta, throughout Canada, the Yukon territories, into the United States. And the former communist governor of Canada, Justin Trudeau, on his knees begging the auto pen, please, please, please don't cancel this, Mr. President. So destroy Canadian jobs in addition to American jobs. So for one brief shining moment, Mr. Trudeau was, at least temporarily, a capitalist. But then when that was happening, Germany, who dominated economically over the European Union and Europe as a whole as its financial center at the expense of other nations' sovereignty, greenlit, along with the blessings of the auto pen, Nord Stream 2, the Russian pipelines of natural gas and oil coming into Europe, and then whining and complaining about Russia as it invaded Ukraine. You don't have to be political to look at that and say that's not common sense. That's either stupidity or there's malintent. That's either complete neglect and people who don't know a damn thing about business, or there's something more insidious about it. Perhaps a global order and a team of communists to Islamists, the runoff of ISIS and Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, and that third nasty secular globalism, a lot of which you will see at the United Nations next week, Tuesday, September 23rd, as President Trump will address that body in New York City. You know, I hope certain people, especially the Venezuelan government, perhaps Iran, if they dare set foot on American soil, I hope they don't go to our nicest restaurants, or I hope they are at least looked at and said, shame on you, peacefully and patriotically, for what they do to their citizens. Because this is only one generation away from extinction. This great constitutional experiment, which you put into place peacefully and patriotically last November. And think of the countless successes now with less than a year in office, and the sacrifices President Trump and his family have made in order to help save this extraordinary nation. But sadly, our big cities are facing violence. You have situations in Memphis, Tennessee, 249 murders in 2024, nearly 450 rapes, to over 12,000 criminal assaults. And Democrat leadership left looking like deer in the headlights. Thank God that we have a common sense administration working for partnerships in public and private spheres in order to make America safe again. And we know that that starts with a good night's rest, something so important to do, because let's be honest, not all of us are like President Trump and can get the 4 hours of sleep or less. But that 6-piece towel set, a new big deal from Mr. Mike Lindell, who is a dear defender of freedom of speech and election integrity. The back in stock towel sale going right now, normally $70 going for less than $40, $39.98, a very limited quantity. It's mypillow.com/RSBN. Call today. Don't delay. It's 800-836-7566. Support Mike Lindell and Right Side Broadcasting Network. mypillow.com/RSBN. You can also donate to this fine network. We are part of the new media. We are taking on the status quo. We are taking on the powers that be. We are taking on a legacy media that sometimes has entrenched interests. We've seen that over the course of the last decade. And as your now go-to live desk, please feel free to donate to us so we can continue that very near and dear mission to our hearts. It's rsbnetwork.com/donate, or you can text RSBN to 801-801. There's also a hard address that you can send a money order into or a check at 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, it's Box 344 in the loveliest village on the plains. 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama 36830. And whether it's people like Coach Bruce Pearl to the latest Miss America 2025, Abby Stockard, to Bryland Hollyhand, we have quite a nice, lovely little neighborhood here of people who are shaping the American ethos and making America great again simply by the people that they are, simply by charitably sharing their opinions, by sharing their faith in Jesus Christ and their love for constitutional principles that have stood the test of time. Charlie Kirk was robbed of that last week, but in turn inspired millions of people to stand up to make that cause happen, not only peacefully and patriotically, but breaking bread with those who disagree. And as we've honored his life and legacy here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, nothing brings me more joy to see my friend honored by countless people, many of whom never knew him, never had a discussion with him, never had the opportunity to shake his hand across this fine nation of ours. With people from the cabinet and the administration, familiar names like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to Tulsi Gabbard, Carrie Lake, Caroline Leavitt, and countless others throughout Washington, D.C., a line that wrapped around the building for blocks to honor his life and legacy, to municipal gatherings, like in Franklin, Tennessee. They expected around 200 or so people. It became closer to 2,000 in the process. And that same storyline happening from coast to coast as it comes pouring into my phone, the different rallies being held on a near daily basis as we celebrated that legacy on Friday evening right here in Auburn, Alabama, on the Samford lawn, where they rolled the corner as they did after that glorious homecoming victory over rival South Alabama just this past Saturday. I'm sure many of you going through all of these different phases of grief in the process, from the mourning to the simple belief that how could this have happened, to anger, and then ultimately acceptance and joy, and every process and adjective that you can fill it with. I'm sure you've all felt that gnawing and that punch in the gut. And thank you to those who have reached out as I continue to, when off air, reach out via text or messenger across various platforms on social media to long phone calls with friends and colleagues. Because without that man, much of what we do in new media and throughout the conservative movement would simply not happen. And can we really even call it conservative more than simply common sense? Simply loving your neighbor? Simple biblical principles that formed this nation and have led that man on a mission. Currently, as we watch over Air Force One getting ready to land in the United Kingdom with our illustrious First Lady, a legal immigrant. Think about her journey, her path to New York City to be at the top of the fashion world. Something not easy to do, and as she's put it as well, a very difficult arena. But not only is Donald Trump and the memory of Charlie Kirk truly the men in the arena, citizenship in a republic, as the late, great Teddy Roosevelt put it, but this entire Trump family who has taken on this mission to help make America great again. As we cover the daily news for you with analysis, content, commentary, and the long form. Actually, we talk to people. We ask those questions. We let them answer. And we do not edit the speeches, the press conferences, and just about everything in between to showcase your 45th and 47th President of the United States, your 50th Vice President of the United States, and your 119th Congress. And this cabinet continues to take the ridiculous attacks from the far left, as we saw earlier with the clash with Kash. FBI Director Kash Patel taking on Senator Adam Schiff, someone responsible for the Russia hoax during the annual Judiciary Committee hearing on the FBI, going over a plethora of questions from Epstein to what happened to Charlie last week. And for what I've seen, this FBI director focused completely on making America safe again. A large topic as we think about how we can keep our families safe in a world that has changed in the last few days and hours. As President Trump continues to push the America First agenda, arriving in the United Kingdom. And we will take you there once that happens to see the grand aircraft that is Air Force One when he is aboard, as we get a live look now of the tracking system as he's above English airspace in the United Kingdom. In case you missed it, Mr. Producer, if we could play back that discussion, if you will, between FBI Director and Senator Adam Schiff. Again, I remind you, Senator Adam Schiff responsible for the Russia hoax, Crossfire Hurricane, and ultimately covering up a narrative that sought to usurp the authority of the President of the United States and ultimately remove him and then try to disqualify him from running for re-election. And this individual has the gall to sit up there. I'm glad the FBI director called him out. We'll play that now.
Who made that decision and why?
The Bureau of Prisons.
The Bureau of Decisions made it in
Prisons.
The Bureau of Prisons decided on their own, without any consultation with Blanche or anyone else, that they were going to suddenly, after this interview, completely unrelated to this interview, completely unrelated to anything she said, move her to a prison not suitable for a sex offender. You want the American people to believe that? Do you think they're stupid?
No, I think the American people believe the truth, that I'm not in the weeds on the everyday movements of
you're
inmates.
not in the weeds?
What I am doing is protecting this country, providing historic reform, and combating the weaponization of intelligence by the likes of you. And we have countlessly proven you to be a liar in Russiagate, in January 6th. You are the biggest fraud to ever sit in the United States Senate. You are a disgrace to this institution and an utter coward.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised that you continue to lie from your perch and put on a show so you can go raise money for your charade. You are a political buffoon at best.
Well, you can take an internet troll.
Take it to the bank that the FBI is protecting this country and the state and citizens of California. We are bringing historic reform.
Point of order.
But all you care about is a child sex predator that was prosecuted by a prior administration, and the Obama Justice Department and the Biden Justice Department did squat. And what did President Trump do? Bring new charges courageously. And what have we done?
Chairman,
you said I'm the most transparent FBI director in history. 33,000 pages of information to you. I challenge you to say anything credibly to the truth. Go ahead and run to the cameras where you want to go now.
Both of you be quiet.
It's a masterclass in dealing with the left and their hysteria and the panicans who seek to harm this country. And it's their rhetoric and their allegiance to communist ideologies that have weakened us. But fortunately, there are people like FBI Director Kash Patel working overtime to make America safe again. Now imagine someone in your family waking up to a cough or a fever, and then it gets all through the house, and we know how it goes from there. Flu season does not wait, so being unprepared is simply not an option. Your flu season prep, all brought to you by allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Prepare your medicine cabinet before the flu season with 10% off. Now code RSBN10, and you won't be scrambling last minute. So scan that QR code now. Stock up on the essentials like Tamiflu, antibiotics, antivirals. You also have NAD+, methylene blue, mebendazole, hydrochloroquine, ivermectin, all proven life-saving entities. Also over 200 essential medications, emergency medical kits, and also antibiotics to make sure that you remain safe during this flu season. Now, you have the PBMs and President Trump's executive order that is stopping their double dipping from insurance companies who control pharmacies, perhaps down the street from you, that prevent you from having the life-saving medication that you deserve. But it's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN that cuts through the red tape and the bureaucracy with doctors and pharmacists, nurses who are patriots. And if you do not have insurance for whatever reason, that's okay, as long as you have a pharmaceutical note for, again, these life-saving medications that are making the world of difference. Be prepared, stock up that medicine cabinet, take these flu season preps with you on the road. It's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Having tangible gold and silver, the hot commodities of 2025, just as they were 5,000 years ago, really in the whole of human history, monetary gold is the best option with wealth and security preservation. Grab your complimentary 4547 Presidential Gold Guide today. Call today, in fact. Don't delay. 800-476-7790. Ask how to eliminate your annual IRA fees for life. It's RSBNforthegold.com. RSBNforthegold.com. Two banks have already failed in 2025. $37 trillion of debt on the docket and more failures on the way, although these tariff negotiations and these new trade deals truly changing the global economy for the better, bringing in billions and billions for the United States, but still a long way to go. This is not fear-mongering. It's simply protecting you and your wallet and the hard work you did for your pension, your retirement, your simple savings. The government can't bail everyone out. That's a simple fact, and Wall Street will not only feel the effect of things that happened like 2008 in the housing crash and crisis, but it will affect Main Street. So don't let the system trap you. Go to All Family Pharmacy. Well, go to that, but also Monetary Gold. It's rsbnforthegold.com. Ask how to eliminate your annual IRA fees for life. That sounds like a good deal, does it not? rsbnforthegold.com. It's 800-476-7790. Ask how to eliminate those IRA fees permanently. Thank you to Monetary Gold for sponsoring us on the right side of history. President Trump should be landing momentarily just northeast of merry old London, England, in the United Kingdom for state visit. The second, in fact, of this president to the United Kingdom. The first was in the first term with the late, great Queen Elizabeth II and her son, now His Majesty King Charles III, ready to host the 47th President of the United States. This friendship dating back for years and years. President Trump knowing then Prince Charles for most of their professional lives and careers in something you don't see as often as you once did, constitutional monarchy. More ceremonial these days, but nonetheless, he is traveling to a United Kingdom that is not exactly fond, politically speaking, of its leader, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, with a stagnant economy, with far-left policies stifling their growth and economic growth specifically, but also the woke agenda, the migrant crisis, illegal aliens who have stormed the United Kingdom, who don't want to assimilate to the values that once made Great Britain just that, great. It's in the name. But we stand with those citizens who defied the free speech rules, where free speech technically does not exist. The United Kingdom has run away from its devotion to and practice of the values of Magna Carta, dating back to the 13th century. But those people, those citizens, it did not deter them from going out into the streets and celebrating not only their faith, but the life and legacy of Turning Point USA's Charlie Kirk. It may not be known as well that Charlie advocated deeply for all of Western civilization. You saw that in his speeches at churches to the college campuses,
stability,
with Turning Point Action, and Turning Point Faith to Turning Point USA, the original 501c3. And these individuals inspired by that to talk about their Christian faith and to talk about freedom and liberty and the freedom of assembly, something so worth fighting for. And Charlie creating chapters and organizations in an international sense, including the second biggest next to Turning Point USA was Turning Point UK, the United Kingdom, where we had the absolute privilege of working with British colleagues to bring freedom and common sense to the Commonwealth. Something that CPAC is doing as well, as you've seen in their CPAC South Korea to Japan, down to Australia, and countless other countries inspired by the timeless values of Western civilization. And that pesky gathering of documents and historical fact that is believed to be sacred scripture and the Word of God itself.
Yeah, look, I think so much will be discussed, not necessarily tomorrow. That is the bit at Windsor. That's the pomp. But on Thursday, the meat of it will be discussed. And I think it's important to recognise that this isn't just pomp. There is a lot of meat that will be discussed on Thursday at Chequers with the Prime Minister. Remember, too, that it's not just the President who's here. His Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, he is here as well. Steve Witkoff, Donald Trump's kind of fixer-in-chief, the Middle East envoy, but also has been so critical, so integral in America's negotiations with both Russia and Ukraine. He is here in London, too. So alongside the principals meeting, that is Starmer and Trump, there will be very, very vital sideline meetings as well taking place between Yvette Cooper, Foreign Secretary, and Marco Rubio. She met him earlier on today when he arrived from Israel. So talks there, of course, but also with Steve Witkoff, trying gently to persuade the Americans, as I say, that they cannot abandon Europe. I mean, Yalda, it's not all that long ago that the language coming out of the White House made it very clear at that point that America under Trump really was looking at effectively abandoning NATO. And yet, as is his way, quite quickly, he then came back on board because NATO demonstrated that it was spending more on its own defence, the other NATO countries, that is. And so he liked that, so he came back on board. He will like the fact, for example, that Britain is supplying jets, fast jets, to Eastern Europe. It is deploying fast jets to Eastern Europe to counter this latest threat from Russia with the drones that landed in Romania. So all that sort of stuff is clearly important to the American president, but it's not enough. I think there's always an anxiety that he could flip again the other way. And so I guess, as I said a moment ago, playing this card so soon was an effective way, so Keir Starmer and the diplomats who were advising him, so they hope, of being able to flatter the president and make him, a real friend of the United Kingdom, notwithstanding all the criticism that he and more so his vice president, J.D. Vance, have had over things like free speech. And I'm sure all that will play into the next couple of days as well. So a really vitally important visit. And of course, there will be a lot of criticism of it too. We've heard some contributors to the show a little bit earlier on describing how they think it's not necessary to do this. It's not necessary to roll out the red carpet. It's enough to be able to have these backroom diplomatic discussions. The problem is that I would argue that it's probably not enough with Trump. He needs this flattery. It kind of is what it is. And warts and all, controversy and all, Starmer's government has made a judgment, and we will discover whether that judgment's right, but has made a judgment that this is the sort of thing that is required.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark, especially with an unpredictable U.S. president like Donald Trump. Welcome to our viewers. It's just gone 9 o'clock. You're watching The World with me, Yalda Hakim. And you're watching those live images from Stansted Airport, where Donald Trump is expected to arrive any minute now for his, as we've been saying, second state visit to the UK. The U.S. president will spend 2 days in the country and will meet with the King, the Prince and Princess of Wales and the Prime Minister. And of course, as Mark was just saying there, he's arriving at a tricky time for Keir Starmer, whose judgment really is being questioned over his sacked US ambassador's links to the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. He's flying into Europe as we've seen serious escalations in the two wars he's promised to end in Gaza and in Ukraine. And I am currently in Ukraine. It's just gone 11 o'clock in the evening, where in the last 24 hours we've had an exclusive interview with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who, knowing that Donald Trump was making this much anticipated trip to the United Kingdom, wanted to send a very clear message to Donald Trump and to his European allies, in particular to Sir Keir Starmer, that as you sit down and have these conversations, I know that Ukraine will be on the agenda. You have to remember that you must be tough on Vladimir Putin. And Mark, it was quite a conversation that I had with Volodymyr Zelensky. He wanted to make those messages very clear, not just to the British public, to the British Prime Minister, but hoping that Donald Trump would be able to hear him too. And we're just looking at those live pictures coming in from Stansted Airport, and we can see an aircraft landing. Mark, just give us a sense of what you're seeing there, because I know that Marine One is waiting. The officials have arrived, and we're expecting Donald Trump to arrive imminently there.
Yes, and you can see here some of the dignitaries are waiting for the arrival of the US president. Yvette Cooper is just behind the woman in uniform. Yvette Cooper, of course, now Foreign Secretary. To her left, behind the, to her immediate left is Lord Hood, who is what's known as the Lord-in-Waiting to the King. He will greet the president off the plane. The woman in uniform there is the Lord Lieutenant of Essex, Jennifer Tolhurst. Those two officials, alongside the member of the government, the Foreign Secretary, as I say, Yvette Cooper, and behind them you can see some airmen, some aviators from the RAF regiment who are here as well. I've also seen some US Army as well. There are two US Army Chinooks that have just landed a short time ago. They, we think, will flank Marine One as it flies from here down to Winfield House in Regent's Park. And on the left of your shot there, you can see Air Force One just on its final approach here to Stansted Airport. So the beginning of 2 days, which Donald Trump certainly taken by his words on Air Force One and on the South Lawn of the White House before he left. He's excited about this moment. We know how much he loves the royal family. He's talked about his love and affection for the Queen so much, the late Queen, and also for King Charles as well. So he's looking forward to this. For him, well, to use his words, this is a fest. That's how he described it in the Oval Office a few months ago. For Britain, it's about pomp, it's about circumstance, it's about a whole load of diplomacy as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. And they're not holding back when it comes to the pomp and ceremony. They are pulling out every bell and whistle for this trip, because for Britain, this remains an incredibly special, significant, the most important of relationships. And so they want to ensure that Donald Trump gets the treatment that he is expecting, and probably more so. Donald Trump himself said that even before he left, he said he's looking forward to meeting with the King, King Charles. He described him as a friend. At the time that Keir Starmer handed that letter from the King to him, he said he has great admiration and respect for the King. He's very much looking forward to making that trip, that second state visit that has been afforded to Donald Trump. And Mark, we can see Air Force One has just landed there at Stansted Airport.
Yeah, just touched down here at Stansted. It will make its way now to the end of the runway, pull back round and arrive here for the dignitaries to meet the president, and from there he'll make a short walk over to Marine One and then drive down to Winfield House. Yelda, I was looking back a few moments ago at a speech that Lord Mandelson, Ambassador Peter Mandelson, that was now fired, of course, that he gave just about 10 days ago, a few days before he was fired. Now, I mean, I think clearly his views reflect the British government's views about why this visit is so important. He was at the heart of the organising for it until he was fired for those links to Jeffrey Epstein. I'll read a bit of it to you because I think it's important. He said, "We can disagree on issues, and we do, but we cannot be fair weather friends," he said, talking about America. "Not when we want to be close partners in good times and influential voices in difficult times." And he continued by saying, this has always relied on strategic depth, not just personal interaction. So in order to get that strategic depth, whoever the president is, I think the argument by Lord Mandelson and by extension by the British government is you need that personal interaction, and that can be difficult sometimes. I mean, it's clear that the political alignment, well, there is no political alignment between the government of Keir Starmer and that of Donald Trump. But the relationship, the special relationship, is so much deeper than that. You know, countless diplomats over the years have talked to me about that. It transcends different governments. It transcends different presidents. Yes, it's come under an awful lot of strain, certainly under the first presidency of Donald Trump, and also under this one, with tariffs, with his flip-flopping on Ukraine, with his position on Gaza, Ukraine. It has flip-flopped. It has come under pressure. But the special relationship that the UK holds on to so tightly, the argument by the British government is that it transcends those difficulties and that you have to build as much as you can on the relationship that you have got. And I also think, Yalda, you know, I talked to diplomats from other countries based in Washington, and they've said over the past few months how envious they are of the way that Britain has played it with President Trump. Yes, some may see it as sycophantic. I mean, honestly, the way that Prime Minister Starmer appeared to be fawning over the president in the Oval Office was for many kind of uncomfortable. But the consequence was that Britain is in a better position on trade than any other country in the world. That may not last. He's an unpredictable president, but for now, it is good. And I think what they will want to do over the course of the next 2 days and well beyond is to build on that, and that they will hope that all this pomp, that it does build on that and that it yields results.
Yeah, Mark, certainly we saw a roll call of global leaders making their way to Donald Trump after his inauguration to try and woo him. There were all sorts of things that people were suggesting, diplomats were suggesting. And as you say, many were envious of the way in which Sir Keir Starmer was able to manage this relationship. And he did have that Trump card, that knowing that Donald Trump has so much admiration for the royal family, he is going to ensure that, just like top diplomats, they are going to be pulled out and for this 2-day state visit used to really woo Donald Trump and show him the kind of pomp and ceremony that he is expecting out of this trip. And it is going to be, Mark, an incredibly jam-packed itinerary. As you say, he's going to be making his way to the US ambassador's residence in central London. After he gets off Air Force One, he's going to be whisked away on Marine One. But from that point onwards, tomorrow morning, he's going to have an incredibly busy schedule.
Yeah, look, if you're a member of the public and you want to get a sight of Donald Trump in the flesh, good luck to you, because I don't think many people will. He could, of course, drive from here in Essex down to the ambassador's residence at Winfield House. He's not going to. That is in part because of security. He will instead, as we've been saying, fly down there on Marine One. Tomorrow he will fly from Winfield House to the outskirts of West London to Windsor, where that event will take place. He will stay tomorrow night in Windsor, and then once again he will fly from there up to Chequers in Buckinghamshire for the meat of the visit and the meeting with Prime Minister Keir Starmer. I have to say, Yalda, I'm standing about 100 foot now from Air Force One. It's quite an awesome sight to be so close to this hulk of a plane, such an iconic aircraft as it arrives here in the UK for what is, you know, a huge, and as Trump has said so many times, unprecedented second state visit. The door's just opening there on Air Force One. The steps will shortly be moved into position, and then in a few moments I'm sure we'll see the US President disembarking, and from the back steps the rest of the passengers, the crew, the traveling media, all disembarking now from the back of the aircraft as well. The steps just being moved into position now. This is a massive security feat, Yalda, and it's been upped even more, I think, after the death, the murder, the assassination of Charlie Kirk over the course of the last week in the United States. Clearly, the president himself, the 2 assassination attempts against the US president. There is massive, massive security. The Secret Service have been here in the UK for the past week, perhaps longer, going over everything. Our security was checked multiple times as we made our way to the tarmac here at Stansted, and that will continue over the course of the next 2 days as well as they keep the American president safe. But as for anyone wanting a glimpse of the president, that won't happen, I don't think. Few will see that because he will be kept away from the crowds. That is partly security. It's partly to keep him away from the protesters as well. I'm interested to know how many protesters there will be. You'll remember the last time he had a state visit, there were really quite large protests. There was that blow-up blimp of Donald Trump that was floating above Parliament Square. Will that make an outing again this time? We will see.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, you just talked about what a monumental security operation this is. I mean, when the US president moves, the security detail is absolutely extraordinary. You and I saw that in full play when he went to the Middle East. We were there on the ground. And of course, to see Marine One brought here on the back of transport aircraft to the United Kingdom so he can make that journey to the US president's, US ambassador's residence. Just the task, the number of people involved in ensuring that the US president is safe. But he's just landed at Stansted Airport now. The stairs, as you say, have been put in place, and any minute now we are expecting the US President Donald Trump alongside the First Lady Melania and a number of members of his cabinet who are here with him as part of what he's described as an unprecedented second state visit, which was a letter sent to him in the hands of Sir Keir Starmer many months ago, and the culmination of all of that we can now see as he has touched down, Air Force One touchdown at Stansted Airport, and the dignitaries there getting ready to greet Donald Trump.
Yes, and you know, for all the talk, Yalda, of red carpets, I'm a little surprised there isn't one here. When he arrived in the Middle East, there were red carpets, there were purple carpets, all the rest of it. I mean, you know, the Middle East is a little different from the UK, perhaps a little more gaudy than here, but no red carpet for the president here. But you could be sure that at Windsor, I think they will more than make up for that. But yeah, we can see the dignitaries taking their positions now at the base of the steps, and I'm sure that we will see the president emerging in that doorway in the next few moments.
That's right, and as you were saying, yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
No, go ahead. No, go on.
No. I was just going to talk about the dignitaries that we are expecting there to welcome Donald Trump. He will be greeted by the US Ambassador Warren Stevens, as well as the British Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper, who will be there to welcome Donald Trump at the start of his second state visit to the UK. But Mark, over to you.
Yeah, and also the King's Colour Squadron from the Royal Air Force Regiment lined up here alongside the dignitaries. Representing the government is the Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper, and then alongside her we've got Lord Hood, who is the Lord-in-Waiting to the King, and the Lord Lieutenant of Essex as well, Jennifer Tolhurst. Those are the three officials who will be the first to greet the US President as he descends the steps here. And we're seeing also, I've just seen coming out of the back steps, the most important people within Donald Trump's administration who have travelled with him here. His Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, she has arrived in the last few moments. His Director of Communications, Stephen Chung, just getting off the plane. And there is the President and the First Lady, Melania.
That's right, Mark. We can see those live images now. It's just gone about 9:20 in the evening. U.S. President coming down those stairs with the First Lady, Melania, to be greeted by, as you say, the U.S. Ambassador Warren Stevens, as well as the British Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper and the Viscount Hood, the King's Lord-in-Waiting. So you can see those images there, Donald Trump meeting with the U.S. Ambassador as he makes this unprecedented second state visit to the United Kingdom. Much anticipated trip following Sir Keir Starmer's invitation to the U.S. President many months ago when Donald Trump first re-entered the White House. And Sir Keir Starmer was one of the very first global leaders, to visit him and make it known that this is a special relationship that they want to continue to strengthen. So this is an important trip for the United Kingdom. Donald Trump says he's very much looking forward to the pomp and ceremony. He's expecting that. And he's very much looking forward to meeting with King Charles. Before he left Washington, he described King Charles as a friend, and he's often showed great admiration for the royal family. He's also expected to visit the tomb of the late Queen Elizabeth. But we can see him there with the First Lady, hand in hand, and being directed towards Marine One, where he will be whisked away to make a short trip to central London, where he will be spending the night at the U.S. Ambassador's residence, Winfield House, in Regent's Park, before the events of the two-day visit begin. And Mark, we were saying there that this is going to be a jam-packed trip. The royal activities will begin with formal greetings by the King and Queen Camilla, along with Prince William and Princess Catherine at Windsor Castle tomorrow. But tonight he's going to rest at the U.S. Ambassador's residence in central London.
Yeah, and a reminder there, just as he got off the plane and walked to the helicopter, that this is a state visit. This is primarily a royal occasion. This is not government to government, although of course it is all about that. But the person who greeted him first off the plane was not Yvette Cooper. She was just after. It wasn't the Foreign Secretary, it wasn't a representative of the government. It was Lord Hood, the Lord-in-Waiting to the King, and it was he who then escorted the President to the helicopter. So a sort of clear reminder there that this is about the royal visit. This is about this is a state visit. I thought that was interesting. What was also interesting, Yalda, was the length of time that Yvette Cooper shook the President's hand for. It must have been, it was at least 5-10 seconds. This from a woman who, not all that long ago, before she was in government, called Donald Trump inflammatory and ignorant, who had such criticism of his language over women. She, of course, a champion for women's rights, and yet felt able and keen to criticize him out of government. Now, of course, she finds herself as Foreign Secretary. The other thing I think is interesting is that when he was last here for his first state visit, she was very critical of that. She said it shouldn't have happened because Donald Trump was alienating allies, was a threat to democracy. Well, that, I think, is a very clear indication of how things have changed, because Trump, in his second presidency, has proved that if you're not close to him, if you're not in, you're out. And so that is why, that kind of gets to the heart of why this royal trip, this state visit is so important, why it's happening, because Britain has taken the view that you don't just need to be close. It is in Britain's vital interests to be as close as possible to the US president. As one senior diplomat said to me today, everything that isn't American leadership is worse. And that, I think, gets to the heart of what all this is all about.
Indeed. And Mark, we're just looking at those live images of Donald Trump and the First Lady, Melania Trump, in Marine One, about to take off and head to central London. Let's just bring in our International Affairs Editor, Dominic Waghorn, who is in central London for us, where we are expecting the President to arrive shortly after he takes off from Stansted Airport. And Dom, we are expecting Donald Trump to head your way, and he will be spending the night there at the US Ambassador's residence before the official proceedings begin, the royal activities tomorrow.
Yeah, he's going to be getting here probably around 20 to 30 minutes. It's that long that it should take for a helicopter to fly from Stansted to the lawns in front of Winfield House behind me. And as you can see, it's a very secluded spot. It's an enormous neo-Georgian mansion right on the edge of Regent's Park. It has the second biggest garden in London after Buckingham Palace, but actually it's very hard to get a view of it. As you can see, that's as close as we can get here. And of course, if you're trying to keep an American president, a controversial American president, away from the public eye, away from those troublesome protesters, any sign of controversy and opposition to his visit, it's a good place to bring him on his first night. So it also has a huge lawn that Marine One can land on in front of the mansion. He'll spend the first night here, and then he's off to Windsor and then off to Chequers. And as he comes here, the British government is preparing for this unprecedented second state visit. No elected leader has been given a second state visit in British royal history. Not even if you go back to Ronald Reagan and Mrs. Thatcher back in the 80s. Very, very close political bedfellows, if you like. Not even Ronald Reagan got a second visit. And that, I think, is sort of at the heart of some of the controversy around this visit. There are those who would say that it is going too far to give this president a second state visit. He had one, he shouldn't get any more, and to do so is just to be too sycophantic towards him. If you talk to veteran diplomats, they are kind of divided over the wisdom of giving him a second visit at all. Some of them saying it's a bit of a gamble, possibly even squandering the kind of royal pageantry and kind of assets that the UK has, because in the wake of his appointment and his inauguration, a whole parade of world leaders have gone through the Oval Office through the court of King Donald. He really runs the White House like a kind of medieval court, arguably, and they have paid tribute. But none of them have really had what Keir Starmer had at his disposal as he produced that letter from the King. He flourished it and handed over to President Trump, because no other European country, at least, has the kind of royal pageantry and pomp and circumstance that Britain can summon up and can muster. And obviously that's something that appeals very much to an Anglophile and someone who likes to be at the centre of attention and likes all the pomp and circumstance here, someone like Donald Trump. So that's appealed to him. But there are those, as I say, who feel that he should not have been offered this, not at least until he had shown he is worthy of it. And I think that was also the concern amongst many diplomats that I've spoken to, that he should have been offered this later on in the presidency, something he could work towards when he showed that he was worthy of it. And I think some felt that it was squandered a little too early. But I think, part of the problem here, part of the reason this is a gamble, Yalda, is also the fact that this is a capricious, unpredictable president. Even if he likes what happens here, and if we expect he will revel in it, even if it leads to more concessions in terms of trading deals with the UK that gives the UK preferential treatment compared to the Europeans, there's no guarantee he's going to stand by his words. He's ripped up trading deals with Mexico and Canada. He's not stood by allies like Qatar that was attacked by Israel, despite Donald Trump giving such full-throated support to Qatar in his Gulf tour. And there's no guarantee that Donald Trump will stand by whatever agreements he makes here. So it is a controversial visit for all those reasons, but also because he is a deeply unpopular president in the UK. Over the summer, one opinion poll said only 16% of British people actually like President Trump. So, he is unpopular, and that's one reason also he's been kept away from the public eye, as Mark was saying there. If you want to catch a glimpse of President Trump, you're not going to have any chance, really, if you're coming here outside Winfield House or going to Windsor Castle. He's been kept behind the gardens, the shrubs around Winfield House. He's been kept behind the walls around Windsor Castle. And Chequers is a very easy place as well to keep protesters away from. A controversial visit and a gamble, no doubt, but one this government believes is essential in terms of shoring up a special relationship that they believe is about a lot more than just one man however controversial he is.
Yeah, Dom, we're just looking at live shots of Stansted Airport, and those two helicopters have taken off. Marine One is heading in your direction. As you say, it probably will take about 30 minutes or so before Donald Trump's chopper lands on the lawn there at the US ambassador's residence. And when that happens, we will be coming back to you live. But for now, Dom, thanks so much. And let me bring in our correspondent, Rhiannon Mills, who joins us live from Windsor. And Rhiannon, the royal activity really will begin tomorrow, where, of course, in Windsor, there will be a state banquet as well. And no doubt Donald Trump is really looking forward to that.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. He's not stopped talking about it, has he, since he was offered that invitation back in February. Back in April, I think we all chuckled a little bit when he described it as being a second fest. I suspect there were some people in the Foreign Office and the Palace who maybe spat their tea out at that description. They probably never had it described in that way before, but he is not wrong. They are rolling out every bit of red carpet and bell and whistle they can possibly find when it comes to making sure that Donald Trump comes to the UK and leaves the UK at the end of the week with only positive thoughts towards us. The Ministry of Defence definitely have not been coy about their description of what we're going to see tomorrow. They've already said it is the largest military ceremonial welcome for a state visit to the UK in living memory. So that is quite something to say, especially when you think we saw President Macron being wined and dined just a couple of months ago, again here in the spectacular setting of Windsor. The things that people are going to have to watch out for tomorrow, a fly past between UK and US military. That has never happened before. We're going to have the largest guard of honour ever at a state visit. Donald Trump isn't just getting some military ceremonial first thing as he arrives. He's getting another bit with a beating retreat ceremony happening later. And also a US military band is also going to be involved in those proceedings. That is the first time